Usually if you go to the ER, they like change into a gown due to, blood pressure, that stuff. So they put me in a room, hooked up the oxygen thing to my finger, and they're like, you need to lay down. You need to lay down on the bed. Lay down on the bed right now. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they put the oxygen on my nose. Next thing the nurse leaves the room, and next thing I know, she comes back. And the door's shut, and there's like a window. And she grabs an inhaler, like an albuterol inhaler. I'm actually not sure what type of inhaler it was. She puts her hand in and chucks the inhaler at me. Doesn't even come in the room and hand it to me. Like, she throws it in the room.
Overhand or underhand? What's it?
Hard.
Okay, overhand. Welcome everybody to the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Janke, and today we have a little different guest on with us. You know, a lot of people, we watch cycling, we talk about it, we discuss it, we do the news and commentary. Obviously, things are a little bit more in turmoil and pandemic. So today we're going to talk to a special person, someone who's gone through this, is still recovering from the COVID-19. Welcome to the show, Tim Wooden. Tim, how you doing?
Great, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
we're
going to get your word out and your whole story. So let me just start by asking you, first of all, you've got people that can watch us on YouTube. They can see that you've got the air mask or the oxygen going. How are you doing right now? How are things going for you right now?
So it's been challenging. And right now I feel no sickness. I have no symptoms of being sick. Other than, as you could see, sorry, I'm holding my iPad, but I got this wonderful oxygen that, we don't have a complete understanding of how much damage was done to my lungs. Is it a permanent damage? I mean, I did not have this oxygen before I got COVID-19. I was absolutely healthy. I'm a non-smoker. No diabetes, no preexisting conditions. So I'm grateful to be alive today, but I feel okay. And I have a tremendous support system around me, which obviously helps me feel better about being on oxygen. So
yeah. Let's talk real quick about the oxygen levels, and I'm sure you got tested with all that. What are you at, or is there a way to understand what that is right now?
Yeah, so I monitor my oxygen with a blood oxygen sensor.
Okay.
This just goes on my finger.
Yeah.
Like so. Let's see what I'm at. We'll see together. 100. 99.
99, good.
So for instance, before we started this, I wanted to go sit outside. I haven't really been outside, so I am kind of monitoring how long I can go without oxygen on. So I'll take it off and I'll sit on the couch and watch my oxygen drop from, say, 99 right now. If I were to take it off, we could see in 15 minutes it'll drop to 84. So I'm monitoring intervals of time to track my healing process.
And how has that been going the last few weeks? An upward progression, or constantly more time that you're doing better, or is it kind of a stalemate, or how is that?
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. The intervals are getting longer, so my oxygen is staying up higher for longer intervals. So that's positive, and that's definitely showing signs of improvement. So that's encouraging.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how this whole thing came about for you. Let's start with where do you live? So we give some context to that. And then what do you do for a living that may have put you in a pool to even contract this, if that was part of the case?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this is going to mess it up, but since I'm holding the iPad, I'm going to put it on the stand so I can set it down so it's not so shaky. If that's okay.
Yeah,
So,
less Blair Witch
yeah,
production.
yeah. If it switches, okay. Oh,
Good.
this is why. This is why.
We accommodate
Oh.
all here.
All right.
Busting the Santa Cruz hat.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put what hair I have left there. Okay.
And we'll blame
Trying to copy.
That's COVID-19 problems, right?
So once you actually are confirmed COVID-19, then like I say, you can call it the vid. It's just the VID. So
VID.
in reference to emails and people I'm talking to, once you've had it, you earn like it's your stripes. So you become the vid.
Right.
All right. So my name's Tim Wooden, 42. I'm from San Jose, California. I am a mechanical engineer. I am focused on semiconductor. I'm in the semiconductor industry. So everything I do revolves around tech, and I spend my days at tech companies. So I do feel that put me into a little bit of a higher risk category just due to the fact that everybody I'm around all the time is global travelers. We travel quite often in the States, around the globe. Um, so I did feel that put me at a little higher risk. I think one of the oddest, the craziest things about this is that I still do not know a single person that has been confirmed, nor do I know a single person that's sick at all. So that is quite alarming.
Were you doing any traveling prior to coming down with this?
So I had not been traveling myself, but we have a factory in Suzhou, China, that we've been accepting deliveries from, but we'd been wiping them down. I mean, we I think I believe everybody out there had been taking all the appropriate precautions. Anywhere I was visiting, I spend a lot of time at customer sites. And just for reference, I think I don't want to name the exact companies, but if you have a smartphone, then you know what companies I'm hanging out at, or if you use a computer, then you know what companies I'm hanging out at. And that is 8 hours of my day that I'm usually out in the field, and I come home and I work on email till later in the evening. So it's not like I'm out hanging out at bars or out shopping where I'm exposed to a lot of people. Like literally, I go to work, come home, and that's pretty much what my days consist of. So catching it was quite alarming, to say the least, just due to the fact that there had been no real confirmations. And here in Santa Clara County at the time that I got sick, I fell ill on March 2nd. And I felt tired. And, just typical, like if you're getting a cold or something, you just kind of feel off.
Yeah.
So that's actually how this started for me on March 2nd. And um, it was just at the time we had that Friday, the Friday before. I remember they released. We had like 18 cases or something really low, right? And it was like the news was reporting the first case of communal spread. And I remember watching the news like, oh, well, that's a little alarming, but I mean, nothing that I thought the following Monday was going to be inside me, So, um, So that's a little bit about how.
So March 2nd. So this has been an ongoing issue. So how long was it until you actually went in to get checked out? Because I know you went to the hospital. So first of all, you started to feel somewhat, and let me ask you this, as you said, no one else that you know of has got it. Wife, kids, no one else still?
Correct. And I don't, the way that Tyler and I connected was because our wives went to high school. I actually know
Right.
Tyler's wife as well, Gina. I know that this is the reason that Tyler and I kind of bumped into each other. But I'm married. Um, we have 3 children. We have a 22-year-old daughter, a 18-year-old son, and a 13-year-old daughter who has severe asthma. And if she gets a cold, then it's detrimental. I mean, she's had breathing problems her whole life, which is kind of plays into March 2nd. So March 2nd, I start to feel not well, cold. Um, I I just felt under the weather. March 3rd, um, started running a fever, but I guess I don't consider it a fever unless it's over 100 or 100. If your temperature's 100, and my temperature was on March 3rd, 99 to 100. Um, and I started just to have a sore throat, no cough, nothing like that. March 4th, I developed a fever of 102 that lasted for 7 days, and I was not able to break that fever. Um, Whether I took Advil and Tylenol, stacked the medicines together, and that was something that I had never experienced before, to not be able to break a fever. And this whole time, I had the chills, incredibly bad. Still, I never developed a cough. I still don't have a cough. I've never developed a cough during any of this. What just the fever, the chills, not being able to break the fever. I had an incredibly bad headache. It felt like somebody was hanging on my eardrums. It was just an odd feeling. I've never had an ear infection in my life, so that was a little crazy. And I had really bad dizziness, and I figured that the dizziness was related to my ear. So
Right.
March 4th, March 5th, 2 days into the fever, I emailed my doctor, and when upon emailing my doctor, he said, "Well, I don't know, maybe you got a touch of the flu, or the strep throat. I'm not really sure that have you know anybody that has it, COVID, and it was really like, I don't think you have this COVID at all. Don't worry about it." But he prescribed me Tamiflu and another antibiotic to start taking. Uh, the following day, I still had the fever. I went to the ER because I was, this is the third day of
Did
having
you
the straight fever.
did you think that maybe you had, I mean, you would obviously question with your doctor that, but did you think that maybe this was just uh, too odd that you actually had COVID, or was it just like, "Hey, look, I'm just not feeling well enough. I'm just going to go to the hospital," or a combo of let's just make sure?
So at this point, I once the fever started, I'd start self isolating
Hmm.
because of my daughter, our 13-year-old. It was just like there was just no question in my mind. It just didn't matter. I just was like, there's too much. I felt like I'm high risk.
Yeah.
My feeling all along was that I was high risk due to being exposed to so many different people that travel the
From your
globe.
job.
And correct. And I think that um, after I went to the ER the third day of the fever, and this is the day that I was just like, shit. Can I
You're
say
fine.
shit? Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
I so I so after the ER, I went in there and I sat there, I waited, and doctor came in, and they were really nonchalant. I thought it was quite odd. The doctor came in and he said, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe you have it. We'll test you for influenza, but we don't have tests for COVID, so I don't know. I mean, we don't. If we'll test you for influenza, we'll test you for strep, and if you don't if those come back negative, then I'm gonna say you probably have it. But I don't know. I really don't know. So they
So
did
it's more
that
of a test
influenza.
of elimination of, look, you've got all the symptoms for these other things, but if we can't confirm that that's actually the case, we're going to assume COVID. Did you actually get tested for COVID at some point?
So
Maybe I'm
this
jumping
quite
jumping your story here a little.
no. But I think this is, at least I get to lay out the story,
Yeah.
because when I get to day 15, you're going to see the frustration and how,
Right. Okay.
without my wife advocating, I probably wouldn't be here doing this interview.
Gotcha.
Um,
It's rough.
so it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and I think so. I go into the ER. Sorry,
Yeah.
ER, and the doctor's fairly nonchalant. They test me for strep, test me for uh, strep and influenzas, all the influenzas. And during this time, he says, "Well, it had already been 72 hours. I don't know why your doctor put you on Tamiflu. You could probably stop taking it." And I had to. I left the ER thinking like,
How long were you in the ER?
damn. The first probably 5 hours. 5 hours. I mean, a normal, like, incredibly long ER
Bunch of
visit. And oddly, this day, the third day, when I went out to the ER, like when I went out into the world, like I kind of felt like a little better. I don't know how to describe it. I kind of felt like, well, maybe I am getting over it. Uh, and then I sent my doctor an email after I went to the ER, and he's like, "No, continue the Tamiflu." It's kind of like this internal doctor politics. Um, so I continued the uh, the Tamiflu. That Friday, uh, my fever went up to 103. This is the next day after the ER.
So
I
you
emailed my
went to the
doctor.
ER 5 hours, so they discharge you, give you some meds or whatever to do, and you go home.
Actually told me to stop taking one of the meds that the doctor prescribed me and go home.
Which
Uh,
one was that?
the Tamiflu, which is, they give you for the flu. It's
Yeah.
a influenza, but apparently you have to start taking it within the first 72 hours of symptoms, or it's not effective. But I guess each doctor has an opinion on that, and my doctor's of the opinion that it seems to help. So I trust my doctor. I really I should have started off by saying that my doctor is a good man. He's always been really responsive, and I mean, really treats me fairly, and I feel like he's a really patient advocate and a good guy. And so that Friday, I emailed him and I said, "Doc, I mean, something is not right, man. Like, this is just not normal. Like, I feel it in my body. Like, something's different." And he said, "Well, okay, I'll present your case to the CDC, and we'll see if we can get you tested for coronavirus. Because apparently at this time, there's this big, long process, protocol they got to follow to get a patient tested."
Which is celebrity, NBA stars, some of these things, right? And you're not one of those.
I did not fall under that. I am a celebrity, just in case you guys don't know my face. I mean,
Okay.
in my house, I'm a celebrity.
Well,
My,
that's better
my
than my
kids,
house. I'm not a celebrity here.
my kids, they spend my money like I'm a celebrity.
Well, that true. Yeah, I get that part.
So, but no, that didn't qualify me for a COVID test. Um, on Friday, I don't have the exact date, but 5 days into the sickness. So he said, "I'm going to present your case Saturday, high fever, chills all day. Sunday, high fever, chills, and
So it's
This
like a
is
week now.
still, yeah, and it's not dropping below 100 at
Mm.
any point during this time. So, and for me, the worst part just felt like the chills. Like I felt like the chills were overwhelming. I don't know. I'm sure everybody's human reaction when they get a fever, the chills are obviously miserable, right?
I
And
heard today, and I don't know if I necessarily believe this story, but Andrew Cuomo, his brother Chris Cuomo, I guess he has it,
Chris,
and he
yeah,
said
I
that
seen
he
that.
chipped the tooth chipped a tooth from chattering his teeth.
Yeah, I did see that, but I have a cracked tooth.
From that?
I I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
oh wow.
it's cracked.
Oh,
So there is a possibility. I had seen that before. He said that today, but I did see his interview today, and I was like, "Oh, that's odd,"
yeah.
you know.
That's some extreme.
So
So it's
so
been about
this
a week now.
been about a week, and this whole time I am not really eating. And now I hindsight 2020, obviously, but like my wife would say, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I don't nothing. I'm not hungry, but uh, how about McDonald's soft serve ice cream? Because hey, McDonald's is
It's good,
not really great for a lot of stuff, but soft serve
right?
they nail, right?
Yeah,
Like
right. Totally agree.
they hit it out the park with their soft serve. And so when she brought it home to me, and I took a bite, and it was miserable. It was, and I just didn't make. I At the time I just was like, I'm sick. Obviously, nothing tastes good. Just let's just whatever. Uh, so, but there's going to be a point to that. So following up, so the Monday after, my doctor emailed or called me and said, "Hey, I presented your case that they won't do it. They said you're not high risk enough." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm running 102 fever, 101, 102 on that Monday. Um, Developed incredible. I mean, the headache that I was about to go to the hospital for because my head hurt so bad, like I had a brain aneurysm or something. As is that my son that walked in the house?
I guess.
That's the entrance to the Corona Palace. That's what I'm calling this place. So, um, yeah, I think the headache had progressed, just the chills, and I was exhausted. Literally, I mentally, I was frustrated at this point because I know I have it at this point. Like I know internally, I have it, and I'm telling Gloria, my wife, I
And had
have
you
it.
got
Just I
the
can't.
results back for all the other, other
So
testing?
so yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah, they came back that Monday negative,
Okay.
and so when that came back
Yeah.
negative, I was just like, okay, I got it. Like just lock me in the room, and I'm just gonna lay here till it's over. Like, and Gloria's like, you don't got it. You don't have it. And I'm like, well, everything else came back negative. Like I have it. It's just different. This is just different. And uh, so Tuesday, I just generally shitty, and I'm like, my doctor called me again Tuesday. Said, "How you feeling?" I was like, "Dude, yeah, the same as yesterday. I mean, it's not. It's just not getting better, doc. I don't know what to say. It's not." And he's like, "Well, let me present your case to the CDC, and can I say that you had contact with somebody from your Suzhou plant in China?" And I was like, "Doc, do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do whatever you got to do. I mean, I don't, I mean, I haven't had any direct contact for reference, but do whatever you got to do if you feel like sure." And that's just because he knows I travel the globe a lot. I'm in Asia a lot. Like, so he just knows. This is just part of that doctor relationship that I was discussing. So um, uh, I said, yeah, do whatever you got to do. He got back to me Tuesday night. Yeah, sorry, man, they rejected it again. And I'm like, okay, well, just okay, stop trying. Like, I'm just gonna hang out and be sick, and like, there's nothing else we could do. I don't know. There's no point to keep trying. Like, thank you so much for the effort. Let's just let it go. And so Tuesday, same thing. 101 is after a call, and Wednesday morning he calls me and he says, "Hey, I have an idea." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. What is it?" And he's like, "Can we get a chest X-ray?" And I'm like, "Doc, I'm not coughing. Like, but okay, sure. I mean, I'll give it a whirl." I went down to get a chest X-ray. Um, Came back. Um, this is Wednesday. Wednesday morning, I had the chest X-ray. Wednesday evening, uh, my doctor says, "Yeah, we're gonna get you tested."
Hmm.
And I was like, "What? All right, well, great. What is it? What? Okay, what happened? Like, maybe what changed? Like,
Yeah, what
how?
was in the chest X-ray that so
Yeah. So my I obviously was concerned. Like,
yeah.
what? What do you mean? Like, we tried all. Like, you lied that I was in contact with somebody from China and it didn't work. Like, all of a
Right.
sudden, you take a picture of my lungs and we're good to go. Like, and he said, "Yeah." So I looked at your chest X-ray, and other doctors looked at it, and it had it looks like shattered glass. Your lungs look like shattered glass. And I don't I kind of looked it up to try and find some images. I hope to be able to take pictures and post it at a later point of uh, before and after,
Hmm.
just for reference. Um,
Do you
just
have
just from that.
your do you have an example of what it was when the doctor took? Did you get pictures of that?
Not yet.
Okay,
So I have not been allowed back at the hospital.
that would make sense.
Just so and this whole time we're quarantined, right? So this whole first week, my kids are not. I am. Um,
Yeah, so
so it
during
was a
this time
Wednesday.
during this time period, at this point, I don't think we had been, fully shut down. As a matter of fact, I know because when we found out of the
Yeah,
news
we
from
were
your
not.
wife, I was still going to work. Kids are still going to school, so you're just kind of locked down a little bit more than normal because of how you're feeling. But is your family taking extra precautions too?
I can't give you. I don't think so.
You're a little out of
I'm
it.
gonna say no. Yeah, I'm gonna say no because I firmly believe that nobody thought I had this. I mean, I don't. Like,
Dad's
again,
just
there was
dad's
just
just
not a
being a
lot of
wuss.
cases. And yeah, absolutely. Dad's being a wuss, and there's not a lot of cases. It's not like today where New York has 30,000, and
Right, right.
like there was nothing to say
You were
or
probably
lead.
first 100 or so in the state.
I'm number 75 in San
Okay,
Xavier
so
County.
75. You're not
So
quite 100.
yeah, I'm gonna get that tattooed on my neck, so I
Or
remember.
your chest.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, number 75. I'm actually gonna get to you. This is how I became number 75. Um, I um, Wednesday night says, yes, you're gonna get tested. I'm gonna call you in the morning with details on how to get tested. I said, okay, sounds good. Thursday morning he calls me. He says, so they're trying this new system. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And he's like, it's a drive up system. So you drive up and you're gonna pull up to a tent and they're gonna do it in the car. And I was like, this is before anybody mentioned drive up. I was the first drive up test. So I was number one at something. So I was the very first drive up test. So my wife and I pull up. We pull up to this tent, and I go to roll down my window, and the lady says, "No, you don't roll down your window." and my wife passed the world on her. She's driving. So they're like, "Can we have your card and ID?" And like
And
they
this is
set
at
it
the
in like this
hospital?
basket. Yeah, this is in a parking lot near the hospital,
Yeah. Okay.
like
McDonald's.
some evacuation tent. And so I give them my card. They walk up to me, roll down my window. They're like, "Okay, don't cough." And they grab, "Don't cough on me," is what I remember her saying. And as she put this swab to, around the back of my throat and then in both sinuses to the back of my throat, which naturally, I don't know why anybody would try this, and I don't recommend it, but it makes you cough, right? So I have a nurse telling me, "Don't cough on me," but she's like reaching, I mean, like arm length, trying to stay away from me. It feels like I'm gonna have a bloody nose. It feels like my nose is broke, like
Was she,
after she's done.
was she like masked up or anything? Like, or
Um, you know, I believe so. I had so many people take care of me at this point, or today. So many people have taken care of me during this process that have been fully clothed and, I mean, suited up, hazmat. That
gotcha.
I don't actually recall. I'm pretty sure she probably had safety precautions like a mask, and she is standing outside of the car, like arms length away, like reaching, like aiming,
But she
you
has
know.
to
So
physically shove this thing up your nose.
correct,
Okay.
but she's doing it from the side, not like,
Okay.
you know, not face on here. It's just like sideways, like trying to, "Don't cough on me, like don't breathe on me." And so we get it done, and um, Thursday still running the fever. Go home, or before we leave, they say, "All right, you'll get the results in 3 to 5 days." And I was like, 3 to 5 days? It seems ridiculous, but okay, awesome. Um, and I was not happy during this time. Today, as I'm retelling this story, I may sound more happy about it, but I was quite ill. Um, so Thursday, we come back home, still running the fever, 101, 102, not going away. Friday, Friday, my fever actually dropped down to 100. I was able to get it down to 100 at one point. And this time, still no cough. I have no cough. Only thing that bothered me on my lungs is if I took a deep breath, there would be some pain. Um, like when you get sick, I don't know how to describe it. It
Was there any
wasn't like
shortness of
over.
breath, or any
So
kind of breathing problems? Did you notice?
I was so sick that I did not really get up and walk around. And laying in bed, I did not notice any
Okay.
breathing issues. I did not have any shortness of breath, like
When
laying
the
in bed.
doctor said it looked like shattered glass, did he give you any kind of recommendations about your respiratory system of anything to do, or did he? Once again, it's just kind of like, well, we'll get tested and just kind of wait this thing out.
No, yes. Wait, get tested. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
I mean, I really firmly believe that we do not have a substantial understanding of what this virus involves, and because it affects everybody so differently.
Right.
And it, I think that's probably the scariest point. And we're just so ill prepared to handle something like this at this time. Um, so I think that's the frustrating point, and it's kind of why I'm grateful that you're allowing me to get on your podcast here and
Yeah.
tell my story, just because as you're going to find out here shortly, that how serious this is, if the oxygen is not an indicator of how serious this is. um, it, it it it's pretty terrifying. So this is Thursday, I got tested. Friday, my fever was able to come down to 100, or I was able to start getting it down. And um, but during these last couple days, like Wednesday through Saturday, I started noticing that I was becoming more dizzy. So at first it was when I was sitting up, like I was still trying to drink coffee because I thought my headache was so bad because I wasn't drinking caffeine, like a caffeine withdrawal headache.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would sit up and I would get this like I'm gonna fall over. Like it was insane, like vertigo. And at first it was only happening sitting up, and then it started happening when I was laying down, and I was just like, oh, okay, what? I don't know. It is what I don't know what. There's nothing I can do about it, right? Like it just sucks. Uh, so Saturday comes around, same thing. I'm laying in bed in the morning, and I guess I'm not sure how Gloria had my phone, but or or she came upstairs and said, "Hey, it looks like you missed a couple calls from the hospital. Can I call them back?" And I was like, I no, like I for what? Like you're gonna sit online on the phone for 3 hours? Like for what? Like I have it. Like I already know I have it. Like what do you need them to tell you? Like that I have it? I already know I have it. And she's like, "Well, can I just call him?" I'm like, "Fuck, no, no, I'm not gonna sit on the phone. Like I'm sick. I'm just gonna lay here." And next next thing I know, I think she's waking me up saying, "The nurse is on the phone. Can you tell her that I could talk to her?" And the nurse comes on and says, "Hey, is it all right if I talk to your wife?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's all right if you talk to my wife. I don't, what, of course. Like, I don't know what the question is. Like, and she says, okay. And I think I fell back asleep for a few minutes. I'm not sure the time frame of this, but it's a long time. Like she did wait on the phone for about like 3.5 hours
Oh, wow.
till she finally talks to the advice nurse after she says, she woke me up and said, "You have it. Your test came back positive." And I kind of woke up to that. Like that was alarming, right?
So you
Like,
you
because
you've been saying that this whole time, I know I have it. You just told her, I know I have it, but yet when you hear it, it kind of jars you.
yeah, for sure. And I was just like, fuck, this is not good. Like, um, I don't know what's, like I'm trying to retrack. I want to make sure that I am away from my the youngest with the breathing, the respiratory issues.
Yeah.
So her name's Elle. So that was probably, I would, I think I told my wife I'd rather die than her to have to go through some shit like this, or my kids, any of my other kids. My other two kids do not have the same breathing issues, the asthma stuff. So they say, "Yeah, you got it." The advice nurse comes on, says she wants to talk to me, and her first question to me is, "How do you feel?" And my first answer to her was, "Look at my chart." I've talked to somebody every day.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. I'm not sure what your question is. She said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Again, I'm miserable. I don't know what your question is. Like, my chart should show that we've talked to a doctor every day. It's miserable. I have a fever." She's like, "Well, can you explain your symptoms?" I explained the headache, fever, dizzy. I take a deep breath, it hurts. Um, and she said, "You have to come to the ER." And I said, "Fuck no, I'm not going to the ER. That is absolutely not doing that. Why am I going to go sit in the ER? Right now, I'm laying in bed. Why am I going to go sit in an ER for 8 hours for you to tell me there's no answer?
When
Like, there's no,
it's been 2 weeks now, right?
right,
Yeah.
correct. We're on day, so this is 315 or 314, 314, 315. So we're 2 weeks into it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, why am I going to go to the ER and sit in a and wait in a lobby with a bunch of sick people when I'm laying in bed already, right? Like for the doctors to tell me, like there's no medicine to treat coronavirus. Like, there's nothing you're going to give me today that's going to make me better. And I didn't know I had a lung issue. So that's probably the scariest part. And I say, no, I'm not going to go. And my wife says, oh, yeah, maybe we should go. And so usually I'm the one that wants to go to the doctor. And she's the one that's like, she's the voice of reason. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, yeah, I think we should go. I'm like, okay. All right. And the nurse starts talking about, well, when you get here, you're gonna have to park outside and honk when you get outside, um, and we'll come out and get you. And at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, great, we'll head over there. So we get in the car and we're driving on the way over there, and I'm thinking, how are they gonna hear us? This is a hospital with cinder block walls,
Right.
like how are they going to hear our horn? Like, this sounds like a sham. Like, I don't really believe they're going to just come out with a chariot and just bring me into the ER quickly. Like, so we get there, and I could see at the opposite side of the entrance there was like a tent set up on the outside. But we get there and honk, and some people look down at us like, what are we honking at? And I'm waving like it's me.
It's Tim.
And
Now I'm a celebrity.
yeah, and nobody comes over. And then I was like, what? I looked at my wife like, what are we, okay, honk again. And she honks again, and I put my hand out the window this time. I'm like, hey, yeah, it's me. And then somebody walks up. Um, one of the nurses walks up, and I was about to roll down my window. She's like, don't roll down your window. Do not roll down your window. I'm like, okay. And she walks around to my wife's side of the car, and she's like, okay, wait right here. We're going to get the room set up. We're going to go bring him in and wheel him in. And I was like, okay. Like, they did what they said. So we're sitting in the car waiting for them to come back. And I think we're an hour and 15 minutes now. I'm waiting in the car. And at this point, we're still waiting. Been in the front of the hospital for an hour and 15 minutes. And I look at my wife. I'm like, let's go home. This is crazy. Like, what are we doing? We're sitting outside in the car. I'm not even close, like inside the hospital. Like, I'm in a car out front in a parking lot. Like, I could have been in bed. I was like, let's go. And so 2 minutes later, somebody comes up and says, all right, we're going to take you into the room. And so they tell my wife, they said, well, if you come in the room, you can't leave. If you leave, even to go to the bathroom, you'll have to stay out. You're not going to be able to come in and out. And I just looked at her. I said, yeah, go home, take care of the kids, and I'll call you later. Don't worry, I'll call you to come pick me up. Then they wheel me into the ER, which is it's kind of a blur. I actually don't remember. There's some portions that I don't remember, like when I started to sit up, like maybe I was just not getting enough oxygen to capture a memory, which is kind of odd, but weird. So they take me into the room, and when I go in the room, you usually if you go to the ER, they like change into a gown due to blood pressure, that stuff. So they put me in a room, hooked up the oxygen thing to my finger, and they're like, you need to lay down. You need to lay down on the bed. Lay down on the bed right now. And I was like, okay. And then they put the oxygen on my nose. Next thing the nurse leaves the room, and next thing I know, she comes back. And the door's shut, and there's like a window. And she grabs an inhaler, like an albuterol inhaler. I'm actually not sure what type of inhaler it was. She puts her hand in and chucks the inhaler at me. Doesn't even come in the room and hand it to me. Like she throws it in the room, and
Overhand
it
or
lands
underhand? What's it?
hard.
Okay,
It
overhand.
was, and it doesn't even land on me. It lands in the corner of the room, and she's like, "Grab that, grab that," and I was like, "What do you mean?" Like I'm talking to her through a window. She's like, "Use it like that." I was like, "Use what? Use what?" And she's like, "Grab it, go grab the inhaler." I was like, "Why couldn't you walk in the room and give it to me? I don't
Right.
understand what's going on right now." Like all this is so like my heart's pounding, right? Like I'm terrified. Like what is going on? Like now she won't even come in. I've never had somebody chuck something at me and ask me to take it. Like so, I did not pick it up. I did not use the inhaler. Just FYI, because it was in the corner of the room and I wasn't getting out of the bed to
You're
go
just
get it.
too weak for that. You're just not gonna make
Yeah,
the move.
I just yeah, and I'm not sure how much time had passed, but then next time somebody came in was in full like hazmat. I believe two people came in. It was the doctor and the nurse, and they do the blood pressure, and the doctor's like, "So your oxygen's really low. We need to get it up. We need to get your oxygen, your pulse ox up. Uh, so I'm gonna have to admit you to the hospital, and if I can't get it up within the next couple hours, I'm gonna have to put you on a ventilator." And I was like, this is when I'm just like, this is before it was like all over the news, right? Like
Right,
now
right.
most people are pretty familiar with ventilators.
Yeah.
When she's telling me this is all incredibly new, and I'm just like fucking freaked out.
Did
Like,
you know,
like
like when at that time, did you know what your oxygen levels were, and did you have any idea of what they should be, as an example?
so I did not. I was told later that when uh, I came in, my pulse ox was 77, which your organs start to shut down under 80.
Oh wow.
So um, a typical person, average, good health. I mean, most people, your pulse ox range from 95 to 100% without oxygen. So, and mine normally every time I've been to a doctor for a checkup for anything has always been 98, 99, always. Uh, so uh, I did not know how serious it was when I got there. When the doctor's telling me that she may have to put me on a ventilator and that she's going to have to get my oxygen up, I it was just, um, yeah, I don't. It was just it was terror because I was very fearful at this point. Like, oh wow, this is really
Serious.
serious. Like it went from like 2 weeks of being miserable, super frustrated, to like, oh shit, am I gonna die tonight? Right? Like, I can I have my phone so that I could call my wife, and can I talk to my kids before you put me on the ventilator? Like, I am I gonna have an opportunity to talk to them before any of this happens? Um, and they handed me my phone, and my phone had I believe the battery had died.
Oh, of course.
I don't know clearly, but I know that when they transferred me up to the room, they put my phone on a charger or gave me a charger. They had a spare charger, like a
That was nice of
hospital.
them.
Yeah, very, very, uh, very kind. Uh, so as they put the oxygen on, my oxygen levels did start to return upward. So it went from 77 to, when they put this on, it went up to 85. Uh, and then they gave me a breathing treatment after the doctor came in, and it went up to 90. And that's when the doctor had come in and said, "Hey, we're gonna have to keep you. If I can't keep your oxygen up, I'm gonna have to put you on a ventilator." Uh, and I guess kind of the weird part, or what I don't. this is one of the most memorable portions of it for me was, so when they transferred me upstairs from the ER, it's like a 7-story hospital. Um, they said, okay, we're going to take you to your room, lay flat. And they put me on my bed. They put the bed flat. And they're like, we have to cover you completely. And I was like, okay, like a couple more warm blankets. Awesome. Like, can you make them warm blankets? And she says, uh, we have to cover you, all of you, your head too. So they put this white sheet over me.
Oh
So
my.
they're wheeling me through the halls
Like you're a dead
like
person.
a dead, yeah, like I'm a dead body. And I'm just thinking, like awake under there, like, I wonder what people think right now. Like,
Wiggle your toe and they're like, no.
I did like the fake boner thing with my
Oh,
hand, just messing around.
fake. I
And
like how you said fake. Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Okay. We'll go with that story.
my oxygen levels were not high enough for.
Did you, when they put that on, they did the breathing treatment and your oxygen level started coming up. Did you feel any different? Like, oh, maybe I could tell now where I had been suffering, or was it just nothing to that?
Nah, I was pretty fearful. I was actually crying because I, yeah, I just didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
I couldn't get a hold of my wife. I didn't know if they were going to put me on this ventilator. So I started writing uh, notes. So
With a boner.
that fake boner.
Oh, fake. Sorry.
Um, but yeah, no. So they took me up to the room, and the next day, uh, Gloria was able to come to the hospital. So the doctor had been talking to her, and I didn't know. I guess my phone was charged, so I was texting with her at that time, and I had talked to the kids. I went through the night. They didn't have to put me on the ventilator, which was awesome.
Mm.
Um, but I'm still in like a negative pressure room where they walk into. There's a main door, and then they walk into a side door so that they could decontaminate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to see Gloria through this like tiny little window, which was was tough as well. Like it's just emotionally tough. And uh, thank goodness I was able to come out of that. And a couple days later, they were able to discharge me on oxygen. Um, Able to get my levels up high enough. They did try that hydroxychloroquine that everybody's talking about. It had zero effect. They
Interesting.
did not discharge me with a prescription for that. So they put me on 2 new antibiotics and discharged me. And then
How was your fever at this point going? Because when you went in, it sounded like you still had a fever. Did it ever come down
so
during your
by
stint in the hospital?
so Monday it had dropped. Monday my fever had went away completely.
Do you think it was anything
Um,
that was to do with the hospital stay, like anything that they did differently, or just, hey, it had run its course?
I believe it had run its course um, because they weren't giving me anything special.
Except for
Um,
oxygen.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it just run its course. And so I and then as I get home and I get out of the hospital, obviously I could watch TV, but that's when we went into a lockdown. Right, that
Right.
Friday we went
Yeah.
into a like shelter in place, and all of a sudden the world's falling apart. Like Tuesday, the Tuesday I get out of the hospital, it's like there's no, it's like D-Day, right? Like it's
Yeah.
quiet outside, like there's nobody walking around. I'm like, and then they say you have to quarantine for 14 days. And I'm like, well, I've already quarantined for all these days. They're like, no, from the day you tested positive. And I was like, oh, okay. So from the Saturday that they got my test back, now me and my family need to be quarantined for 14 days from that Saturday. So then we started an all new quarantine schedule, right? And my wife's already, well, I'm in the hospital. She's home cleaning everything, like with the carpets. oddly had been cleaned that Friday. The Friday before, we had just had a schedule to have steam cleaning done, not because of sickness. It just worked. It was just a coincidence,
Coincidental.
but yeah, but it worked out in our favor. But she cleaned every portion of the home, and so the Tuesday I get back, clearly I was still sick, because how I could tell now that I was really done with, that the virus had left my body, or that whatever sickness was over, was my smell came back and my taste came back, and I didn't realize I had lost it. Like, I've used the same soap for 7 years, and I took a shower, and where washed my mustache with the soap was so nauseating to me that I couldn't use the soap any longer, because this
This is after.
overwhelming. Yeah, this is
Oh, wow.
this is like the Wednesday, uh, so my smell starts coming back, uh, and I remember that they had cooked something in the kitchen. It just smelled like, it was like a new sense to my, like the first time I've ever smelt. It's just this overwhelming, like, all coming back to me, and the way that I could tell my taste came back. My taste came back because I asked my wife, said, "Do you want something to eat?" And
McDonald's.
I said, "Sure." They were going to Taco Bell, and sorry, this is a bad river. We don't just eat fast food. Sorry, this is just
Sounds like all it is here.
it's just it's. I know. So she said, "Do you want something from Taco Bell?" I was like, all right, let me try a bean burrito. Like, just bean cheese. I'll take that." And and she gives me this bean and cheese burrito. It's like the best thing. And I've eaten at nice restaurants.
Right.
I've eaten at some of the best places, like highest reviews, Michelin stars. This bean burrito is the best thing I ever had in my life. Like, I savored the bite. Like, it was just incredibly delicious.
Wow.
I was like, what is in this, man? So that's how I could tell that now, after reading other people's stories, that you definitely lose your smell. Not everyone though. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking my case, right? Like that, I lost my smell and sense of smell and taste, and so um, that that is how I kind of knew that I was over the sicker part of it. But I was still, I had an incredible shortness of breath. Like, you could kind of see our stairs over here,
Hmm.
and it's not very long. You could actually see my oxygen line running from our
Right.
bedroom. Uh, I'll take you upstairs to my. Yeah, I would be the worst hide and seek player ever
Right.
right now, because you'll find me quickly. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Low oxygen. Um,
Have you been retested at all to see to verify? Or I know more tests are coming online, and when you first got it, you had to, basically petition
no,
the CDC to even get something. But no, nothing else.
no. So, and I think that that's probably the most frustrating part to see. Like, I mean, the outpouring of support and well wishes and has been so immense. I mean, literally incredibly inspiring, the amount of people that have reached out and offered support to me and my family, and um, it's incredibly frustrating to see that there's not a lot being done differently today.
Hmm.
Like, we're still not testing enough. We're
Right.
still, the tests are well behind. So my mom, for instance, yesterday gets tested, and she lives up there in Placer County, um, and it's a 5 to 7 day result time. Down here, it's 3 to 5 days. But how are we going to get a comprehensive understanding of the disease and who's infected where, when you're still not testing enough? Like, people still can't be tested without having broken glass like I hear these press conferences where they're saying you want tested, go get tested. Like that's not the case
Right.
at
And
all.
I was reading today, well, a friend sent me a link and I didn't have a chance to go over it, but there was a discussion or a text link about a lot of, there's some false positives, but actually these were negatives that they're coming back where it looks like there's some problems with the test that are not showing a positive when they should be positive. So, we got to work those kinks out still.
Yeah, I actually read a similar article, maybe the same, that that it's kind of a conundrum as to how, when you're being tested, what a positive person, how many spores they actually have, or how many particles, or how contaminated they are, which I thought was incredibly odd. Like how contaminated you are. Like you could have a little bit of contamination or a lot of contamination.
Mm.
They, it's not like what phase of the sickness you're in, but actually how contaminated you are. So it's very strange to read, and I just, I don't, I don't know. I just, it's incredibly frustrating to be so ill prepared, and I still feel like we're just getting fed a bunch of BS. And
Could very
at
well,
this,
just a thought though, if there's more positive, I mean, always trying to look at the bright side, I guess. If there's more positives that are not showing as positives, which would mean the actual death rate then would be lower than what's being reported, right? Because more numbers on the denominator than the numerator, I think, I'd
yeah,
imagine.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm looking for hope here. Um,
yeah.
what about you mentioned what your job does, and just to me, when we had talked the other day, you had said that your business, they're kind of doing some transformation to help this whole situation with ventilators and other things. You want to talk to me
So,
about kind of that process?
so my company is an incredibly large company. I don't know if I can. I'm sure I can promote it because
It's totally up to
that's what
you.
I
I
do.
don't. No
Smiths.
one's
So Smiths, SMITHS. I'm in the interconnect portion, which falls under Smiths Medical, or Smiths Interconnect and Smiths Medical. We have four divisions. My division is focused on semiconductor tests, semiconductor uh, development and fabrication, manufacturing, um, spring probes for a variety of battery, a, a huge portfolio. But we also have a detection division, which is what you would see at an airport, the x-ray systems you go through, the bag scanners, gas detectors. But our medical division is also focused on biomedical. We're doing a, an immense amount of medical, but also it happens that we're doing ventilators. So we are helping facilitate some of the ventilator shortage, especially in the UK. We're headquartered in the UK, so that portion is being delivered into the UK at this time because the UK is also facing the same problem. I know we get to see results here in the US the most, but it's being everywhere around the globe.
right,
Obviously, is being affected.
right, and we're kind of seeing
So
the wave come this way. Italy and Spain, and obviously China for what they're reporting.
yeah, and I think the hard part is that China state media, you just got to kind of take with a grain of salt.
Right,
Um, I would absolutely add 4x to what was reported. I mean, I you could see what happened in Italy. Like
right.
it ran through Italy like a wildfire here. I mean, that is is crazy. And I really hope that no one else I know has symptoms or that if somebody else gets it, it's not as drastic as it was for me. And I am just grateful for the opportunities like this. Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate being able to just come on here and tell my story.
No,
You
it's
know, I
fascinating for all. I just wanted to say real quick too. You're going through the talking about the night you went to the hospital. Gina was on, my wife was on like a text thread, I think with your wife and some friends, and she mentioned that, oh, Tim, we have to go. I don't know exactly what time she was texting her along this, but the word was, looks like you're positive. You're going to ER, and that kind of hit Gina pretty solid. And we had been already kind of prepping, that's out there in the news. My wife was very much on the front of this, so we're kind of doing our thing. But it hit home a little bit harder. And, me being kind of, I'm like, well, he's one of the first here in California. Maybe ER is just what they do. Maybe you just take them to ER, kind of isolate, because you've been hearing all kinds of stories. And then you're out a few days later. And the reality is it was much more than just, because you'd heard, people are dying, but then there's also this couple from Australia that I saw as an example. And they're like, hey, I tested positive. I wouldn't even known that I had COVID unless I was tested. They were the ones that were on that cruise ship. So there's obviously big variances here, but yours was much more serious.
yeah, and you know, I'm grateful for that portion as well, because the more people I've talked to, like examples like that, like it was like, oh shit, like this is real,
Yeah,
like this is, and more precautions were put into place. Like um, I've heard many examples of people that were, that had to be quarantined because my kids, they just took it more seriously, or they implemented something at their job that required them to just be clean after every single encounter. Like my daughter's boyfriend works here, and they were actually in Florida on a cruise when I got sick. So they came home. I didn't realize they had came home. I was so sick. Um, but
yeah,
they came home, and so he's a manager at Target, and he was told that obviously he had to quarantine because he's here, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, that he was the first one in Northern California, first Target employee in Northern California that had to quarantine. So I'm sure, along with these real cases, I'm sure you again have people that are also saying falsely just to be off work for 14 days, right?
Right, right, right.
So it messes, it's really challenging. Like for him, like they want a doctor's note from my doctor so that to cover the pay. And I'm like, my doctor is swamped treating patients. He didn't give me a note. Like,
Yeah.
but
Why
you
don't
want me,
Why don't you just give them a note?
that's what I was like, you want me to just go over there with you, man? Like, I'll just say, hey, I, yeah, it's so, I mean, I see it's just a multifaceted of challenges that we face. And I, it's really incredible. And I think it's also tragic to read stories that are exactly like mine, except I'm reading it from the survivor's perspective, right? Like I'm
Instead of
reading
an
it
obituary type.
from the wife that took her husband and he
Right,
didn't come out.
right.
Like everything's identical up to that point, or the husband that took their wife and she didn't come out. They didn't get to talk to her. They talked to her through FaceTime, and it's, man, I I don't know if I've used the word grateful so much um, over my life than I have the last couple of weeks, but I I I, I really I it's hard to find another word to. It's been a great example for my kids as well to
Mm,
see, because I live my life and we teach our kids that you treat people with respect, and even if somebody's being negative to you, then you do not respond in negativity. Like we treat people with kindness, and if we don't have anything nice to say, then it just doesn't need to be said. And it's hard to live that way, right? Like
sure.
especially in this
Yeah.
time, like I see what's
You're
going
not on
on.
Twitter. Is that what you're saying?
right. like it's, but it's something that we set an example for. This
Right.
is how we live our life, and we are at, like, to the point where I won't honk at people in my car, because if I get honked at, I feel like it's really offensive. Like, I have to block Goya from honking. Like, if somebody's stopped at a red light and taken a few extra seconds, like, I don't honk, because it's not going to get me there faster. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, I don't need to
Well, if you
startle
do
them.
honk and they move, then it does get you there faster. I'm not seeing the. I'm kidding, but yes, well, I see your point.
Tyler, we have to end this. We have to end this. No, I'm just kidding. But no, yeah. So it's just, I, I think that the point of what I was trying to make is just that my kids have really got to see the outpouring of support from people, um, and it just made me feel good that shit, all this thing that I'm talking about all the time, like, people do care. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
there's a lot of good in the world, and like look at how many people want to help support us while we're down. Like, that is beyond words. It's really, really, really incredible.
How is
And
did anybody from your where you work, has anybody else come down with COVID? Since obviously this kind of, you suspect that's where you got it. Anybody else within the
so
company?
we have 20,000. We have 20,000 employees
Yeah.
across the globe. I was number one in the company, and there has been one other case, unconfirmed, possibly.
Hmm.
That's it,
Oh, wow.
out of 20,000 people. So I've obviously got a lot of attention. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess professionally, maybe this is going to help move me up the
Okay.
ranks. Now that
Is there,
now that everybody knows my name
right.
back in England, you know. But no, I think my company has been incredibly supportive. I'm part of a really incredible team, and I I can't imagine. Another facet of this is the people that don't have support from a company like me, like my company.
Right.
You know, like, to have a financial burden on top of being sick, and or being furloughed or laid off, on top of being sick. Uh, I, I just hope that as a survivor I could give back, and I am also still a little frustrated with the follow up, just because, the numbers were so low when I started. Like, my makes me a large percentage of data that they could collect, right? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously the numbers have grown exponentially, but as a survivor, there's still important data that they could collect from me. I would think that they would want to do blood tests and follow up, and I thought the CDC would be much more involved. Like, I was number 75 in the county. I don't know what it made me in the state. It may have been the whole state, because I believe Santa Clara County was the first county to have
They were locked down much
COVID.
sooner. Yeah.
So the CDC phone call, I didn't even talk about the CDC. The CDC phone call, they called me from Atlanta, Georgia, and I was like, okay, well, this is probably going to be a fairly long call. They're going to want to trace where I've been, how I've been, and they asked me two questions. It was like, do you know anybody with it? Did you come into contact with anybody confirmed? And did you come in contact with anybody confirmed, or do you know of anybody that is confirmed? Those were the two questions they asked, and that was it. No follow up, nothing.
Wow.
So, it, as a survivor, as a, it's really weird to say survivor. As a recovered COVID patient, um, I, 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 I don't. I just want to see more done. Like, and I don't
Yeah.
know how much more can be done. Right? Like, I'm not saying that they're not trying their hardest. I see there's Gloria's cousin works on a project. I don't know how familiar you are with the new test, the portable test system, the 5 to 15 minute test result system. So that came out of here in the valley, out of Abbott,
Yeah,
Abbott
Abbott.
Labs,
Okay, yeah.
and Gloria's cousin's actually working on, that's one of his main projects. So it's kind of
And how is that going to
coincidental.
be a? Well, I know there were some companies that were trying to do some at-home tests, and they kind of got shuttled by the FDA and such. But I imagine Abbott's then is where you would have it at the hospital, drive up type of thing, similar. Or
I,
do you know?
no, yeah, I don't know. I've only seen what they've talked about, and then I've just talked to him on text message. So um, I do believe it's a swab test that would be like in a doctor's office where they put the swab in and it'll calculate the information quickly and get back results lightning fast. I still don't know. I mean, obviously they beelined it through the FDA. Like
Right.
I've never seen the FDA react so fast in my life. Like like what's getting approved by the FDA all of a sudden? Like it's
Right.
like backlog. Like
Well,
anybody that I
the
know,
pharma tech companies, they're always saying, 2, 3, 4 years to get
10,
out, and all the
yeah,
millions and billions to do testing and such. And it's now, I mean, look, there are before, I mean, you talk about the grace of people, and I think this extends there's a lot of people out there, myself included, and I'm not talking giving me credit, but where we're just deciding not to go to work. I mean, for me, I try to work online, and I'm an attorney, and the courts are closed, so for me, that's just kind of puts a stop to it. But there's a lot of businesses. Like my idea with my family is we're just done. We're not leaving. We're cutting down all basically association with kids and their friends, because I need to get this done and over. We need to save lives, and we also need to get the country and myself back to work. So the best I can do with that is to just isolate as best we can for and hopefully just nosedive this thing, and then get back. And I know there's a lot of people out there that they're voluntarily doing this, and it's
yeah.
kind of a whole world thing right now. So
And if we could get more people to do that, whether it's 15 days, 21 days, 30 days, like
right,
what if we could get that, we could kill the spread, right? Like
right,
that it's drastic, but it's not doing extended harm beyond anybody else, right? Like if everybody does it together, everybody's going through the pain together,
right.
but we're going to limit the spread.
There
And
was
that,
you talked about CDC, and I just say this real quick. I think it was Taiwan, someone I know North Korea, sorry, South Korea, when they were able to kind of take it, it was they someone test positive, and it was one guy that kind of had a real big issue. He's at a wedding, and they went through his contacts, and then were able to spread the info to all those contacts, and they started doing testing. So they started the source, and then they move out, and it was a little much, but for you that was 2 questions, so it's a it's a little.
even so, Singapore, right? Like
Yeah,
look at Singapore. Singapore is doing trace contact, like, and they have it locked down. Like, yes, it's a little intrusive, but they can pinpoint these these contact points. Like
right,
it's and yes, the actual landmass is much different, right? They're much more condensed, populated
right.
high rises. It's not so sprawling, but that doesn't mean that we should not be able to do something similar. Like I, I I think we just need everybody first to believe that it's serious, right? Like it's not something to play with, whether you're young or older, or I had pneumonia before, or a cancer survivor, or like I believe that everybody is absolutely has dealt with challenges in their life, right? Like I'm not trying to minimize anything that anybody's done, but and for some people it's not so bad, and others they're dying, and then you have guys like me that are men and women like me that are now wearing this because there's some unknown of what my lung healing is going to be. Like that is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying to think that. I mean, and for reference, we didn't talk about, I still have not walked over like 400 yards,
Mm.
like in total, because, you know, I'm definitely still short of breath, and I, like I'm able to sit up and talk. And this is a huge step forward. Yesterday was the first day that I was able to work for 7 hours. And by work, I mean sit right here and work on the computer. But I'm exhausted after. Like the fatigue is insane.
Are you getting
Um,
checked up with, is your doctor still checking in on you, or getting any
so
kind of,
so the hospital follows me every 3 days.
okay,
I take quite detailed uh, data. I don't, just because I'm kind of a data collector. You know, I have technology to monitor my heart rate, my
right.
oxygen. I mean, the oxygen they gave me, but monitor my heart rate, monitor how I feel. You know, I have an iPad that I do diary logs with, and you know, I. Sorry, somebody came to the door, as you could hear.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Never
okay.
seen so much action at our front door.
Right.
Literally, the door hasn't been open. Now I look like I'm spreading disease,
Right.
like
I thought you were
just
quarantining it.
contagion. Seriously, like how many times has that door been open during this video? We're gonna have to edit that whole portion
I
out,
don't know if
man.
I put
Like
another
just
picture
go
of
to
you
right, yeah, go to right there. Like add, like
there. Hey,
we have
it's your
15
background,
people walk in the house.
right?
Like I'm like
Are
no
you are
floating
you
out.
are you done with the quarantine? It looks like
Oh
it,
yeah,
obviously, with the door action there.
so so yes, we are. Uh, we I I was off quarantine the 29th. So I quarantined from 3/2 to 3/29,
Oh, wow.
nearly a month of quarantine into my bedroom, and it was quite the stay. But you know, we are also limiting. You know, I think the hard part with the kids, especially the older kids, the 22-year-olds and the 18-year-olds. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I think probably my 13-year-old's more bored than anyone, but we're really limiting the amount of how much we're going out. And
Right.
I think it's still another thing that we didn't discuss. We're gonna have to break this to like 10 episodes,
I might
man.
have to cut
Sorry.
this in episode part one and part two.
Yeah, I apologize, but
It's fine.
you know, it's a little scary to not know whether I'm immune to it now. Do I have a 6 month immunity?
Right.
Do I have a 2 week immunity?
Well, that's what I
Do
was
I have
wondering
any?
about retesting, to see, and it will be interesting. I would like to see two types of tests, right? And get these out, like the Abbott and all these others, that we can start everyone testing, and so we can find out. But then testing to see if you've got what is it, the antibodies, or whatever you got from this to inoculate yourself going forward. That'd be good to some sort of. I'm not a
I
doctor or anything.
agree, and that's I feel like I emailed my doctor yesterday because I'm starting to feel better. I emailed him. I said, "Hey, doc, I want to give my blood. Like, I want if you can use my plasma
Right.
to help somebody else survive. Like, I want to do that. Like, where do I go? How do I sign up? Like, nobody's talking to me about this. Like, if if I have antibodies that are fighting the infection, take them, use them, you know, multiply them. I I'm all for it. Like,
I'm sure there's someone out there working on. Obviously, we need to have someone working on, a vaccine, and something along the lines of what you're talking about. The fact that they're not contacting you, I'm sorry, but maybe they'll watch this video and do so. There probably are, some people they're doing it as well. But that's good that you're at least expressing to your doctor your willingness to help out, and to get as much of your donation as they can get. Data and blood, I guess.
yeah, I mean, data's got to drive our decisions, right? Like, data has to. We just can't go on opinions and gut feels.
No,
Like, we need to be data driven. Like, we,
right.
we
And
don't do anything at work without data. Like, yeah, we try to design new products, but we would never release something to market without
I,
data.
I
Like,
even heard Dr. Fauci talking about the modeling, and that supplying the models with updated data all the time. Obviously want to have, models only as good as the data you've got in. And the more and more we get, and I think we're, as a US, probably doing some of the most extensive, even though it's not enough. It looks like to me, we're still at least ramping up our testing to the point that it's exceeding other countries at this point. So start using our models and whatever you can do and forcing that data in there.
I don't know about your personal opinion, but my personal opinion, Dr. Fauci is brilliant. I feel like have my own personal opinion is that having Dr. Fauci out there makes me feel safer. Like I feel like he is he talks like it's a job and he's trying to fight it. Like
Right.
like it's really comforting to know that there's somebody like him out there. And
Yeah, I have no
I
qualms about him.
yeah,
Seems
really do.
quality. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Someone
agree.
might have.
And
I talked to a friend of mine who lives in Washington D.C. We had a previous podcast that was somewhat cycling and then somewhat kind of this related, and he had been on a conference call early on with the White House because his father-in-law is a big, I don't know, hospital guy out there. So he'd been in a conference call 16th, I think, of March. So right in the middle of your whole situation, and he had some comfort hearing the seriousness from the CDC, the White House, Dr. Fauci, and all these other people. I don't think Trump was on the call, just out there. But some comfort from the seriousness and the level of activity from these people too. So it goes along with what you're saying. But
yeah,
we're a big country and it's hard to nail this thing down.
yeah, and it's I think it's expected but sad to see that like Louisiana and Michigan like
Right.
popping up and the only answer we have is, oh, it looks like a new hotspot after New York, right? Like we've had 3 weeks of New York,
Right.
like, and it seems like we're still really ill prepared, and Louisiana's popping up, and like we need to stop going out, and we really just need to be
It'll be interesting to see if
care for
Florida,
each other as humans.
right. It'll, because I think that the consensus or the popular opinion is that Louisiana happened because of Mardi Gras. And so, just kind of exploded out of there, and it would be interesting to see, I know people, spring break down in Florida to see if that spreads because of that. And I know a bunch of the kids that were down there, have now come positive as well. So I don't know why the hotspot in Michigan. I don't know what happened up there, but
I think again we kind of fall under um, global travel, right? Like
yeah,
Detroit has
yeah,
become more and more of a global, even though it was U.S. cars, American cars, right? Like it's the heartland of American muscle.
right,
Like,
right.
but now there's a lot more Chinese factories that are coming through there, and you're getting a high density of travelers where they've repurposed those factories for Detroit's offered incredible discounts and cost per square foot to repurpose some of those factories just to bring back some jobs, right?
Right.
And it may not
Yeah,
be auto, but I mean, it's ideal. It's an ideal economic decision.
right there. Did you
It was
freeze up?
actually
Okay.
pop up later.
Yeah, true.
No,
Anything
and
else?
I really want to, I really want to give you a view of the hose that I'm hooked up to,
Okay.
just
Okay.
for dynamic effect and the
Yes.
machine. So, are you ready for that?
I'm as well as I mean, I'm recording. So yeah.
All right. I'm gonna switch the view here.
Okay.
This is kind of like Apollo 13. So, this is not my chargers. I apologize. So, this is the hose that hooks up to my nose, and it comes down from upstairs. Sorry, I gotta make sure I don't trip myself. So I run it over the top of the stairs. Sorry, my quarantine room's a little messy. We can cut that part out.
I don't know.
And it runs. Sorry. I got hung up on something.
don't pull it out of the. Have you ever seen the movie Airplane?
Yeah, of course.
When the girls on they're transporting her and she's on the plane and they get crazy with their music and they knock her breathing tube out. That's what I'm seeing that's going to happen here. Oh wow!
So this is my oxygen machine, and it goes right next to my bed. So, and on this, I have for my portable oxygen bags. I have two portables. One here, one here. These are what I take for when I'm on the road, and those get refilled on this top part. Sorry, I'm a little winded. Just from that little walk, you could see.
Yeah.
And then I got this bad boy, just in case power goes out, safe. And then I'm not sure why they gave me this one with wheels.
That's for
I
when
guess
you
I have
start
one like
walking.
a purse. I have one, but I wear this one like it goes over my shoulder. So I don't know, but this is kind of sad. You know, this is my reality. So
And since they don't know a lot about obviously the situation, but you could probably find out from others. How long do they expect you to be connected?
So literally, the answer is we have no idea.
No idea. Yeah.
We're gonna monitor, and I don't think, and I get it. Like I'm just not a high priority right now because I'm alive. They're trying
Right.
to save people's lives. You know, like they're like, all right, we'll get to you when this calms down a little bit, and I understand that, but I wish they could take more data from me. I really wish that I was more help than I feel like I am. So
Well, it's admirable that you've got that attitude and that you want to be able to help. Obviously, maybe that's somewhat of the scientist or the engineer in you, always looking for that data and solving problems and willing to do that yourself. None of your family exuding any kind of symptoms whatsoever.
no, no. So
That's good to hear.
I'm again going to use the word grateful, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the proper word, but yeah, it's definitely been a time to reflect. You know, the shitty part is it's in tragedy that we kind of realize
Right.
what we have or what we lost, or you know, sadly, if somebody passes away, we realize what we lost, and I just don't want to lose perspective on that. So, you know, I want to make sure my kids understand and that they know I love them every day. I want my wife to know she's an incredible person. We've been together. Shoot, I've been so I've been together with my wife longer than I haven't in my life. So
Impressive.
we met when I was 16, and she was 15. So 42 now. I don't know. It's quite a few years, but we've been together longer than we haven't, and that is she's my ride or die. Like, you know, she, like yesterday, we're sitting on the couch right here. I look at her, she says, "I want pizza," and I was in my head said, "I want pizza." That's what I said in my head. See, it's just like we got ESP.
Pizza, Taco Bell, McDonald's.
Oh yeah, no,
It's all
no, we
coming.
want broccoli. Re-edit that. We want broccoli.
Too bad. There's no
Can
editing
you
on that
can
part.
you edit that?
No. So any last words of your, anything you missed in the story that you wanted to relay, or, words of caution, or just kind of last Tim's closing argument here.
I just again thank you for giving me the opportunity
Yeah.
to tell my story. I think it's a little hard to recreate, but I really appreciate the opportunity, and I to anybody out there, if I can help you, I think you can. If you want to know more, if there's something that you feel like maybe I didn't talk about, reach out to Tyler. He could connect you to me. I am here to, I'm here to support people, and I'll offer anything I can, anything I got to help somebody else. So um, please just be safe, man, and let's limit the amount we're going outside. Let's kill this virus together by not leaving the house. Sounds like I know when money gets involved, it gets kind of crazy, but I I think if there's no people left, then what's the value of money? So
Yeah, the give and take there. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today and talking about it. And so, yeah, if anybody has any questions for Tim, or we'll post this up on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel as well, so we can always connect and do that there. But once again, really appreciate the long conversation. A lot of details in there, a lot of good info, and everyone be safe. And Tim, once again, thank you for joining us.
thank you, man. Hey, you get all handsomed up just for these videos?
Oh, handsome. This is natural. I just take stuff and I put, by the way, haircuts.
It's good.
Haircuts are going to be a problem. Haircuts are going to be a problem because I need one, and I don't know how to get, so I think I'm going to have to go back to shaving my head. So.
My barber, she reached out to me, and I told her I was sick, and she's the one that's constantly, every 3 days, I hope you're feeling better. Like,
yeah.
Like everybody's been like that, but I look at my hair, man. Like
I see it.
It's bad.